I think the awareness is very limited. It's very low. So it's not only among the public; it's also amongst the professionals. Because sometimes we talk to social workers, we talk to people from local authorities, and they're surprised when we say that we provide live-in, and this is how live-in works.
Hi, and welcome to the Chasing Care podcast. On today's episode, I'm delighted to say that we have a leading expert in live-in care. Let me just introduce you to Greg from Pro Medica 24. Morning, Greg.
Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Gavin.
Now, for the audience, they won't know you. Introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Greg. I'm from Promedica 24. I'm a country manager responsible for the UK market. Promedica 24 is one of the Europe's largest live-in care providers. We're specializing in live-in care.
Okay. How long have Pro Medica been in the UK and delivering this service?
Since 2030, it's 10 years in the UK and 20 years in Europe.
Okay. So live-in care. For those that don't know, what is it? Paint us a
It
picture.
is It is an amazing alternative for people who are looking for care. So basically, with live-in, the care worker is moving in to the service user house and provide one-to-one personal care, which is tailor-made to the person's needs. And he's there 24/7, supporting that person. No matter whether it's companionship or more complex need. Sometimes it is that there is a need for one. Sometimes there is a need for more care workers to support the person. But basically, the rule is that the care worker will move in and live with the person.
And how long has this service been available to people in the UK? It's not something that everyone knows about. I just wonder where the roots of this came from and how Pro Medica established themselves in the UK.
At least 10 years, because we are here for 10 years, but I think it's longer than that. However, I think historically, all the residential settings were the primary choice for people, or they were suggested by social workers and local authorities that if you need care home or nursing home will be the best place for you. We know that when people are in need for care, they are in the crisis mode, so they don't have a headspace to look around for every single available option. They will choose what was advised to them by professional. And I think the service is not as promoted as it should be by everyone.
There's a lot of people that provide unpaid support for loved ones, isn't there? Probably thousands of people that are unpaid carers. How would you differentiate something like live-in care from what they're actually providing to their family member?
The main difference is that the care is being provided by the professional. All the carers are trained, vetted professionally. We check all the details about them, references, employment history, DVS, everything. And I think, although it's really important to support our loved ones, it's also important to take care of ourselves, to give ourselves a bit of break from time to time. Even if you want to take care of your loved ones on a daily basis, sometimes it would be great to have someone who will step in for 2 weeks or 3 weeks in support during that time. You can take a step back and take a break. We had cases like, for example, one of our clients, his mum was taking care for him for the whole life. But she reached the point that now she doesn't want to be a carer anymore. She loves him, absolutely. But it's just, she's at this age that she wants to take a step back and allow a professional to step in and take care of all the needs of that person. I think that's the main difference.
And I'm guessing that live-in care as a service, having spoken to, we had Alex Palmer from Noble Living Care on the show last week, and she was saying that it's not just the elderly either. It can be 18 plus. Explain how that
Absolutely.
might work.
Absolutely. Quite often, care is associated with age, especially older age, which is not the case because some people are born with conditions like cerebral palsy, and they need care from their early days. And yes, we as Prometica 24, we're happy to support people who are 18 plus. And the whole purpose is that to allow people to live their lives to the fullest. Yeah, we have a client who is a barrister. So the caregiver support, and he's paralyzed. The caregiver supports him to be able to work, carry documents with him, helping to get to the court. So it's just enabling people to live their lives. So it's not always someone who is in their 90s. We've got clients who are in their 20s who are students, and the caregivers are there to support them to get to the uni, to help with learning, sometimes to play PlayStation together. It's just to have someone.
That's incredible. I mean, I have read about people supporting individuals, as you say, students through university, and I guess that is a form of the live-in care support because they have to be there 24/7 to help that person.
Imagine a situation that you're in your 20s. You don't always want to be with your parent. When I was 20, I didn't want to live with my mom, with my dad. This is just I just wanted to move out, and that is the opportunity. That's one of the options. I'm not saying that's the only option. That's why I said at the beginning it's important to show different available options to people, not only residential, not only domiciliary, but all available options so people can make an informed decision about what type of care would be best for them. Because I would say, if someone needs to be supported 1 hour a day, we wouldn't push for living because that would limiting someone's independence. But if there is more needs, that the needs are more complex, or there is a need for more attention every day, then I think living is absolutely great alternative.
How aware, from your experience at ProMedica, you've been doing this for 10 years, how aware would you say that the public are in the UK that this is something that they might ask for?
I think the awareness is very limited. It's very low. So it's not only among the public; it's also amongst the professionals. Because sometimes
Oh,
we
really?
talk to yeah. Sometimes we talk to social workers. We talk to people from local authorities, and they're surprised when we say that we provide live-in, and this is how live-in works. And they're surprised, and quite often they say, "Oh, it's absolutely amazing that because it would allow someone to stay at their own place and enjoy everything that they enjoyed on the daily basis." So if someone wants to stay with their pet or have their local community close, stay close to their friends, there is no need to go to the care home. Or yeah, so basically you can enjoy all the aspects of your life and being supported by someone. That awareness, I would say, low, but we are doing our best to increase that awareness.
Yes, it's always difficult, isn't it, to raise awareness with professionals that are sometimes, hate to use the phrase, but Alex used it last week, stuck in their ways and maybe unsure as to how to commission live-in care because they've never done it. I mean, how would you describe the process if you were looking at that as an alternative to either residential care homes, nursing homes, domiciliary care, these sort of things? Is it remarkably different in what you do as a provider for them?
No, I would say there is not much difference because as other care providers who are CQC registered like we are, we have to do all the work to understand the person's need. We have a trained, a qualified care team who conduct the care assessment, will make sure that we understand the needs of the person, and following that, we'll advise how we can support, and then the person can make a decision whether they think this is something for them or not. But I think process-wise, if someone from the district team or local authorities, if they're afraid that the process will be significantly different, it is not.
That's interesting. And you mentioned that ProMedica are a CQC regulated company,
Yes.
and I've spoken before on podcasts about the difference broadly with a CQC regulated company and an introduction agency. From the CQC regulated side, just explain to the audience what that actually means. What differentiates you as a company and what you do from somebody else?
The difference is that we are legally obliged to follow the regulations, and we don't do it only because we're legally obliged. We think that's the right thing to do. As I said before, all of our care workers are properly vetted. We follow the regulations 19 of the Care Health and Care Act. So we make sure that we know the full employment history, that we know the gaps in the employment history to make sure that the person in a jail, for
Yeah.
example, we check the references, we check the DVS, we check all of these things. We provide a professional training to our carers because this is our obligation and this is what we think is the right thing to do. So that's one of the differences between a regulated care provider and the intra-agency. But also, we have all necessary insurance in place that if something happens, the person who is receiving care can be assured that, and we are insured and they are protected as well. I'm not sure if that's always the case with the intra agencies, because basically the intra agency will introduce the care worker to the family, and then all the dealings are between the service user or the family of the service user and the care worker. They will decide how they want this to work. There is no care team in place in such settings, so can they make sure that the needs of the person is properly and they identified? I don't know.
From the introduction agency side, it sounds as if the family has to make decisions about the care provision
Yes.
and are responsible day to day for effectively managing the carer. What happens for a regulated care provider? How do you ensure the service day to day is at the right level?
So first of all, as I said, we have a professional, qualified care team, registered manager, care managers, who are responsible for making sure that the care plan is prepared, that it is reviewed on the regular basis.
Let me just ask the question. You've mentioned a care plan a couple of times. Some people won't understand what that means. Could you just explain what a care plan is?
It's basically a detailed description of person needs, likes, dislikes, what they would like to do, what they wouldn't like to do, how would they would like to be taken care of, what are their conditions, who are the professionals who will be involved in the care provision as well. So it's basically a detailed description of the needs of the person and how the care will be provided. Because at the end of the day, the care worker will also receive a description like how the care should be provided. There is a guidance, there is an information like this is what this person likes, this is what this person dislike. They would like to go to the local pub every Wednesday. So we know all of that, plus all the care needs.
And you say introduction agencies are not going to be doing that part of it at all.
You know, having a care manager or registered manager would indicate that they would have to be CQC regulated. And straight away they would step into a different world.
That's interesting.
Because legally speaking, they cannot be engaged in any care provision.
So, from your side of the fence, then you've got a care worker in somebody's home. They're living there
Yep.
24/7.
Yes.
How do you ensure that they're delivering the care that is required, that has been agreed under the care plan? And what's the difference between that? Again, just to make it absolutely clear to the audience, if an introduction agency puts or introduces a carer, what do you think they're doing that you're not, or you're doing that they're not?
I think that they can't do anything. They're just the intermediate between the family and the carer in regards to introducing the carer. And in case that the carer needs a break, they will be looking for replacement. I think this is where
So
their
it's a
role
recruitment
sits.
agency.
More or less, yes.
Okay. And what do you do then day to day with your living carer in somebody's home? How do you manage them and make sure that service is being delivered correctly? And make sure that the family's happy, I guess, and the service user are happy. How do you do all
Yeah.
that?
So as I said, so initially we prepare a care plan. This care plan is always in the person's house. It's available there. We have our care team who regularly visit the family and visit the caregivers. They will do spot checks, supervisions. They will talk to the service users. They will talk to the family members. They will ask like, how are the things going? Are there any changes in needs? Do we need to adjust the care plan? We've got the emergency line available 24/7 if something happens. So the services of the family members, neighbors, the caregivers can just give us a call and we will make sure that the care manager will go there as soon as possible.
Okay, so it's a fully managed service 24/7 then.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm. I don't think introduction agencies have that level of interest in what goes on in somebody's home, that's for sure.
I'm not sure if it's about interest. As I said, legally speaking, if they would become involved in the care provision, they would have to be CQC regulated. And it's a completely different world because all of a sudden you're from my background is in finance. From their perspective, their overheads would increase significantly because they would have to make sure that they will employ right people, that they will introduce new processes in place. Yeah, I think it's more about legally they cannot do it.
We've touched on CQC regulation. Maybe I should have made it quite clear the CQC is the Care Quality Commission, and you say you're regulated by them. What does that mean in real terms? What are you? I mean, I know that like this Financial Services Authority in the UK, people are aware of what they do, but what is the relationship you have and what they're doing for the customer?
It's a very good question because we've did a bit of research some time ago, and it appeared that only around 45% of people are aware of the existence of Care Quality Commission. So the Care Quality Commission is a regulator for the health and care sector. It's not only care providers, it's GPs, hospitals, dental clinics, many different places. It's like an equivalent of Ofsted in schools and nurseries.
So
So
you're
basically,
regulated by the same organization that regulates hospitals and doctors.
yes,
Now, that's important for
absolutely.
people to be clear about, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's really important because and as I said before, there are regulations that we're obliged to follow. And as I said also, we don't only do it because we have to, it's because we believe that's the right thing to do. From the services perspective, it is important to understand that CQC is there to protect them, but also to protect providers and also to protect carers. Every single part of this equation is to the extent supported by the Care Quality Commission.
What happens if the family are really disappointed, upset, and they want to complain? What?
They have all the right to do it. They can raise it with the CQC. They can raise it with the safeguarding team if it's something that they believe it should be raised. Sometimes we have to raise the safeguarding if there is a need. They have all the rights to complain to the CQC. And CQC will raise this complaint. They can decide to inspect the care provider. They do inspections not only because something was raised, they regularly inspect care providers, hospitals, as I said, but also if there will be something that will catch their attention, they can come and inspect. And at the end of this inspection, they will issue a report that will confirm what they found.
Hmm.
And
We
they
often hear,
rate,
don't we, about residential care homes that are unfit for purpose. It gets in the news quite a bit, doesn't it? Are you monitored in the same way? Maybe like a school, just to put it into perspective for people that are listening. Ofsted regulates schools. Everybody sees the reports on the schools. They're rated good, outstanding, etc. What about your business and what you deliver in live-in care? Is that measured in the same way?
yeah, yeah. It's same as care homes with us. We can be rated one of the four ratings. We are rated good. There's only one better rating than ours, which is outstanding. But just to give people perspective, good is really good because if CQC gives you good, it means that you're actually good. Then you've got requires improvement and inadequate. I think we're quite proud to be good.
Sounds as if it's also therefore important that people seek out the CQC and check up on the companies that they're talking to. That said, if you're an introduction agency, you don't have to be regulated by CQC. And I guess that they get measured by things like Trustpilot and Glassdoor, and that those are the only
Yeah.
ways you can measure their quality.
It's measured by the reviews, not by the inspection, not by a professional who will come and do a thorough inspection of the service, because it's not like it's not a phone call with someone from the company. It's a proper inspection. The inspector will come, visit, look at every single aspect of the business. They will talk to the care workers, they will talk to service users, the family members, employees of the provider, and based on all of this, they will write a report, which is available on the CQC website, which every provider should put on their websites to make it available to people. And I think it's really important for people who are seeking for care to read those reports, because you can find really important things in these reports.
I remember when I put my children into school, I went to Ofsted and I read the reports on the school to make sure that I understood all levels of the service that they offer, because there's many ways to measure it. It's not just on the academic side, is it? It's
Mhm.
safeguarding and those sort of things. And I'm guessing that that's the sort of thing that CQC would do.
Yes, that's correct.
And you mentioned, just to pick up on a point, again, I think this is really important for people listening today. If you are CQC regulated, you're required to put your CQC badge on your website to tell everybody that you're regulated and this is the level that you've achieved with them. Is that correct? I'm just jumping into this episode, which I hope you're enjoying, to ask for a favour. It's really important to us to get likes, shares, following, and comments about the Chasing Care podcast in order to build the audience. So if you know anybody that's in the care sector or thinking about care for a family member, maybe you could like, recommend, and share. Let's get back to the episode.
Yes, and it should be easily accessible and visible to people that are visiting your
Okay.
website. You're not hiding it from people.
Yeah.
It's like we are
Yeah.
proud of our ratings. We're more than happy to present it. But I know that there are some providers who had some more difficult periods. They were rated inadequate or requires improvement, and they prefer
Yeah.
to hide it. But it is one of the requirements of the CQC to make sure that it's visible to people on the website.
And if they don't have it on their website, you should probably just still make sure you understand if they are CQC regulated and go to the website cqc.org.uk and check them out.
Yes.
And if they're implying that they are some way related to the CQC, it might be that they're just an introduction agency. So be careful to understand if they're a provider or an introduction agency.
There's a tricky way to say it. We are regulated and registered with the CQC. What I've heard, they're recognized by the CQC, which is true because they are recognized by the CQC. So it's a magic of words. It depends what words you're going to use.
That's a subject that I'll probably pick up on another day, because it's one of those things that gets my goat. I mentioned it to Alex Palmer from Noble Care last episode. All of the introduction agencies that imply that they have some relationship to the CQC, when in fact they have no relationship with the CQC, other than the fact they might be recognised as an employment agency or an introduction agency. So audience, if you're listening in, make sure you absolutely clearly understand the difference between a provider and an introduction agency. Let's just move on for a few moments, if I may. A lot of people who might be listening in might be sitting there going, oh, live-in care, my house isn't big enough. Oh, live-in care, I live in a 2-bedroom flat. I can't have that. That's not going to work for me. Just explain, what are the minimum requirements for somebody that might be thinking about this is a great idea? They'll be fully supported, food, out, traveling around, doing their education, maybe work. Paint a picture for the listener. What are the minimum requirements for you as a provider to be able to deliver service?
that it's a safe place and there is enough of private, safe space for the carer to move in. Because we all know everyone needs privacy. And and that's the main requirement, that there is a private space for the carer, that the carer can move in and have their own wardrobe, their own bed. That's the main requirement.
I've got a 2-bedroom flat. I've got a spare bedroom.
Yes,
That's it.
yes.
So I don't need a big house with a separate
You don't.
building or
No, you don't need to live in mansion. Again, as you said, it's probably a 2 bedroom. That's the minimum that you need, because it is about dignity and it's about privacy. We need to and we want to give our carers a private space where they can take a rest, when they can have their own time, watch a movie, do
yeah.
something for themselves. So yeah, you don't need to live in a big house.
I've got 2 kids, and I feel sometimes as if I'm the live-in carer for 2 kids. The challenge for me is I seem to be available 24/7. Every time they shout "Dad," I'm going to respond. How does it work for the live-in carer day to day? What will they be doing, and how available are they to the person that you're supporting?
It all depends on the person's needs. So it's you you can try to paint a picture of the day of the living carer, but it's all different because, as I said, our service is a one-to-one, tailor-made, person-centered. We have less than 200 clients in the UK. The care workers are there. Obviously, they do not work for 24 hours, 7 days a week. They have breaks. They have time for their own, for themselves. For every client that we support, for every services that we support, we create a daily routine. And that's the indication for the carer as well. Like this is how the day should look like. But of course, talk to the service user. If they want to do something different, if they want to do something else, that's all right. We support a positive risk taking. They would like to try something new. We will support them in that. We'll assess the risks and make sure that they can do it in a safe way, because otherwise you're just limiting people with independence. As I said, everyone is different. Every day will be different.
And paint a picture for some of those successes that you've had with some clients. This might be interesting to hear. Give us an example of where you've moved into somebody's home, providing live-in care, and you've made a difference to their lives.
So I was talking about this example yesterday with my colleagues. So we are supporting a lady who is bedbound, and she felt at home that she's basically for 10 hours a day looking at the ceiling. And she thought that, okay, it would be better to move to a residential setting. And ultimately, she said that it was just a different ceiling she was looking at. And
Just a different ceiling. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
she decided to try living care. And that was a big difference, because all of a sudden you've got someone who has a full attention. And residential, the carer will take care of multiple people. In the domiciliary, someone will pop in for 1 hour, 2 hours, or 30 minutes. Live in, you have this someone with you. So at the beginning, it was again lying on the bed. Then they started to sit down. Then they started to move into the wheelchair, try different things. That was a significant change. And we are super proud about this.
So from staring at a ceiling to moving around in a wheelchair, I guess, is the person able to get out of the house now?
Yes, everything needs to be done in a safe way. So again, we will assess the risk, but we'll try to help that person to live their life to the fullest.
And that's one of the challenges for you mentioned about residential care homes. I should pick up on that because families often think this is the only option that they have. They put mum or dad into a care home, don't they? And it's probably 8-to-1 ratio on average, something like that. That means
Mhm.
8 service users in the home and one carer looking after them. They're not going to get that full attention. And statistically, I've read in the past that it's something like only 30% of people in residential care homes actually leave the building. So it must be very prison-like, in my opinion. I know they do social events, but 8-to-1 care means to say that it's not 1-to-1, and therefore you might end up sitting in a room with lots of other people, and you might not want to sit in the room with lots of other people, but you do want some company. You do want to share
Yeah.
something with someone.
Yeah, and because when we were talking initially, as we were talking about live-in, it's not always about personal care. Sometimes it's about companionship. Sometimes it's just about having someone to talk to, someone who will help you with some domestic stuff like cooking, cleaning. It doesn't always is about care. Sometimes it's just to have someone there with you.
Yeah, and if your mum or your dad lives 200 miles away from you, as a family member, as a daughter or a son, you're not going to be able to drive there to look after mum or dad every day of the week, are you? Which is probably
No,
why people get put into residential care homes.
yes, but when you mentioned that long distance, you recall a case that I read about on the internet. I think it was on the LinkedIn. Someone left a comment under one of our posts that lady was being discharged from the hospital, and again they weren't presented with all the options. They were just informed that they secured a place in a care home, which is 80 miles away from where they live. So yeah, now imagine that you want to visit your mom, your loved ones. So 80 miles, that's a 160 miles round trip. It's difficult to do it every day.
Mm. And we put that down to the discharge team in the hospital probably not knowing that live-in care is an option, and certainly the family not knowing to ask.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's about this. It's awareness, and it's about what we as providers do to increase this awareness. But it's not only providers, because it needs to be from all angles. That there will be education from the top and from the bottom. So we will try to educate the public, and we will also try to educate the local authorities, the NHS, the social workers. And I'm not saying in the way that in a negative way. It's just if you don't know about something, you will not offer this as an option or present it as an option to other people. So try to do it on two levels. So right, we do it on two levels. So on the national level and on the local level. The national level, we use social media, we use PR, we talk to the government about living. One of our successes that I'm quite proud of is like during the COVID, there were many guidances released by the Department for Health and Social Care and CQC, but they were always for residential and domiciliary care. There were nothing specific for live-in. So we were talking a lot with our contacts from the Department for Business and Trade, and ultimately our conversations resulted with specific guidance being asked for live-in. That was great because that was exactly what we were talking about: raising awareness of people on the top so they are able to spread this awareness. But we also try to do it, and we also do it on the local level. So we have an amazing team of franchisees who work in their local areas, talk to people, engage with charities, engage with different groups that are condition focused, and they spread the awareness about living, about this type of. We work with other care providers as well. I believe in the sector we should consider ourselves colleagues rather than competitors. And then yeah, we're trying to work together to increase the awareness about care in general. Because I think the big problem in society, not necessarily is that we are not planning for care. So when people are starting to look for care, it means that they're in the crisis mode. Something happens. Is being discharged from the hospital and they need to find the care provider within 2 days. Or there was an incident, something happened, and they need to find the care provider as soon as possible. And nobody is planning. Is looking at this. In 20 years, I will probably need, or mom or dad will probably need a carer. What do I do now to make sure that in 20 years we'll be able to afford it, we'll be able to will understand all the available options. Even looking at myself, I work in the care sector. And only last year, I had this conversation with my mother about, okay, what do we do in
Yeah.
30 years? Luckily, she's also strongly related to their health and care. So it was easier to have this conversation.
That
But
certainly sounds like a conversation that maybe you and I can have again on the Chasing Care podcast, looking at the future and funding and those sort of things. I agree with you. It's like children needing to plan for their pensions at the age of 5. They need to start being told about you need to save money, because in the UK, the government hasn't got the money to pay a pension these days. You've got to look after yourself. Care is just another classic one of those. And there's all kinds of things that were being talked about now as an equity release and those sort of things. Yes, that's certainly a subject we can talk with you again, I'm sure, on Chasing Care. The one thing I'd just like to touch on, there's a lot of belief in the market, from my understanding, that living care is really a private sector thing. You pay for it yourself. Can you get it through the local authority, through the public sector? Is that possible?
yes, it's absolutely possible. So I would say looking at us, we're probably 70-30 more towards private than public, but it's still available. It all depends on the local authority, basically, because there is no common approach amongst the local authorities. You will have you will have ICBs or NHS and local authorities which are fully aware and more than happy to commission live-in, and they're happy to pay even more than what we charge. We charge what we charge. We don't go the way that we'll charge more to local authorities. No. There are others who are not so keen to look at live-in, or they're not aware about live-in, or if they are aware, they believe that what they offer to pay sometimes it wouldn't even cover the salary of the carer. So theoretically they know about this, but they're not so keen to do it. So it is possible, and I think it is important from public perspectives, and they talk to local authorities, the NHS, when they are in need for care or their loved ones are in need for care, that they understand that there are different options and they have right to ask about different options.
Interesting. And that's something that I hope to help people understand as we move through the latter part of this year and talk more and more about live-in care as a service. I do have one question though, and this came up in a bit of a debate on LinkedIn that I had. Somebody was trying to egg me on a little bit. I won't mention the name. They were saying, do you charge the same amount for a local authority package as you do a private client? And I think this sort of stems from the belief by many, because care homes tend to charge private clients more money than they get from a local authority for a bed in the same building. In terms of live-in care services, is it the same for a local authority as
Yeah,
a private
absolutely.
client, the same cost?
It is more work when you work with local authorities, because there may be some additional reporting that they require, additional work to be done by the care team. But we don't differentiate our rates based on whether it's a private or publicly funded, because at the end of the day, it's the same service that we provide. So with those local authorities that they offer significantly lower rates, we just don't work with them, because it is all about maintaining the high quality of care. And if we start cutting our costs, it ultimately will have impact on the quality of the service that we provide. And then on the other hand, there are local authorities who are ready to pay, I would say, easily 20-25% more than our weekly fees, but we still charge our rates, because then it wouldn't be fair to straight away and go and say, okay, I would charge Gavin this, but because you're happy to pay more, I will charge you more.
Well, that's very kind of you. If I ever need your services, Greg, I know I'm going to get the right price. Thank you very much for being so honest with me. It's much appreciated. We're getting close to the end of our session today. And it's been a very interesting one. Just tell people that are listening, why live in care? Why should they even think about live in care from your side of 10 years of delivering it? Why live in care?
because it is a great alternative to residential care. It is one to one. As we were talking about this, one to one. You don't share your support with 8 other people. You are not being visited for 30 minutes or 45 minutes by someone who just pop in and prepare something, which is okay. I'm not saying that any of these other alternatives are bad. I'm just saying that this is alternative. It's available. You have this one-to-one support. It is tailor-made for your needs, to your routines, your preferences, likes, dislikes. How I like to look at this, it's like when you are in the residential setting, you've got a menu. You need to choose what you want to eat, or just basically you're being told that today we are eating this, that, and the other. With living, it's your decision. You can ask. You can either cook together with the carer, or you can cook for the carer, or you can ask the carer that I would like to have a fish and chips today. So it's your choice. You have your family, your loved ones close to you, your friends, your neighbors. You can keep your pets, local community. I think it's just a great alternative.
Yes, I tend to agree. And if they want to skip breakfast, they don't need to worry that they're not going to eat at the
Oh,
next time slot when the food is being made available. It's
yeah,
fitting around their lives, isn't it, in many ways?
yeah. It's
Makes absolute
exactly about
sense.
this.
Greg, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for
Thank
your
you very
time.
much.
I'm sure that we'll be speaking again. Thanks for helping unravel some of the intricacies of the live-in care sector. It certainly sounds as if people should know about it. So keep on pushing with the government and in the local communities.
Well,
If somebody's interested in finding out more about ProMedica 24 and live-in care, how do they find you?
you can go to our website, 24.co.uk. They can talk to one of our franchisees in their local area. So they're happy to pop in, explain more. It doesn't need to be over the phone. They are there. They can visit, they can explain, can talk, understand what are needs. So our franchisees are fully aware and they are knowledgeable about the service. And yeah, I would say go to our website, talk to our care consultants, and make an informed decision whether this is something that suits your needs or not.
Greg, once again, thanks for your time. We'll speak
Thank you
again.
very much. Tony. Thank you very much. Speak again soon. Thank you.